Hello everyone, this is Quinn here from NewBreedAgent.com, and I want to welcome you to this video which is entitled Facing Off with Yourself. Now this may be a little bit of a strange title for you as somebody that's following me or checking out my content when it relates to real estate marketing and advertising, but I will tell you, understanding who you are, understanding the unconscious and the subconscious, and why we build things up only to tear them down is going to be far more impactful for you and your real estate business than marketing, funnels, sales tactics, and different strategies that may come and go. And the reason I say this is because as somebody that's been an entrepreneur for the past 5 years, I got into entrepreneurship through marketing and through tactics and websites and pixels. That was what I thought the extent entrepreneurship consisted of. But as I began my journey and got clients, developed relationships, tried different strategies, tried running ads and doing all these different things, I began to realize that something deeper was at play in the midst of all of these different strategies and tactics and things that I was observing and chasing down. So while we do teach our clients how to run ads, how to use sales funnels, and how to break things down and apply it practically in today's world to get clients, we don't do it without the understanding of this part first. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my perspective on facing off with yourself as it stands for today at the time of this recording. I know things change, but ultimately, like I said, this is going to be something that you're going to commonly find throughout your journey and day to day, moment to moment. This is the game that we're all really, truly playing. So when it comes to facing off with yourself, I want to talk about peak states, low states, objective truth, and trusting your own process. So with that being said, let's start here at number 1. So why is it that, when we're in these peak states, we experience inspiration, we experience motivation, creativity, the world is endless, the ideas are endless, the possibilities are endless, the desire, the pursuits are endless, the, aspiration of wanting different things, material items, business growth, to develop a team, to hire people, to get a bigger office, to get better equipment. How come they all exist up here? And then how come the next day or maybe an hour later or even a few minutes later, we experience self-doubt, we experience worry, we experience fear, we experience our own limitations, we experience, lack of desire, lack of pursuit, lack of aspiration. How come, in moment, how come moment to moment we can experience these peak states and then, just as soon, or just as easily experience these low states? Well, this is, like I said, the journey that I began to pursue when it comes to entrepreneurship, because I had the ads, we have the ads, we have the funnels, we have the marketing tactics. We know it works day to day, and while this still is relevant and applies, how come I would run ads and then I would tear them down within a day? How come I would build up products and services and then, reject them before I even, talk to enough people? Or how come, I would build a program and get super excited about it and then, quit on it, And how come I would, talk to people, say yes, and then later realize I didn't want to do it, right? That was what, to me, became more important. Understanding this, facing off with me versus ads, funnels, tactics, marketing, pixels, retargeting, right? And ultimately, this is my perspective. Like I said, for you, if you're interested in funnels, I'm sure at this point in time, there's enough training and content that I have out there that will show you how to utilize these things. But if you want to think about and contemplate a deeper reason as to why things in your business are maybe going up and down, and why you're having challenges, and why you're, basically doing the same thing that I've done, well, you need to understand yourself first. So when it comes to these peak states and low states, right, it's like you could imagine that we all have an antenna. And this antenna is tuning into different possibilities and different aspects of the universal mind. And so that may sound a little abstract to you, but just imagine you have an antenna, and depending on what you're doing with your body, depending on what you're focusing on, depending on the questions you're asking yourself and the state that you're in, you're tuning into a certain radio or a certain frequency. And what begins to happen is that when you're in that radio, when you're in that frequency, you begin to take down and draw inspiration. You have courage, you're bold, you'll tell people how it is, you'll say the truth, right? And then when we change our state, consciously or unconsciously, we tap into the doubt, we tap into the self-doubt, we tap into the anxiety, the worry, the stress, the limitations, and the fears, right? So first of all, you want to be aware of when these two different aspects of yourself begin to show up. Now, it's really just all of you. It's not two different things, but it may appear to have two different sides right now. But what you want to be aware of is when you're in these peak states, what products do you buy? How do you spend money? How do you use money? And what's the condition of your house or apartment or place that you live? Is it clean? Is it dirty? And when you're in these low states, what does your environment look like? And what does, the things around you look like? What does your bank situation look like? What does, the time that you're spending? Are you working out or are you not working out, right? So first of all, it all starts with the awareness. So when we're facing off with ourselves, we have to be aware of when we begin to move into these states. And what will happen is at first, unconsciously, you'll just hover between these and you don't really even know why it's going on. But when you start to bring awareness into both aspects, it's really, like I said, it's just one spectrum, and you're just experiencing, a different aspect of the spectrum. But when you bring awareness to these and use different, measuring sticks and different things that you can do to see, when you're in these different states, that's going to first help you at least begin to identify from an objective standpoint when you begin to move into these different experiences, right? Because ultimately, whether we like it or not, if we are unconsciously moving into, these low states, then what ends up happening is then you create that experience, right? I mean, if you're in a low state and you're doubting yourself, well, you're going to look into the world and everybody you see, everything you do is going to be filled with doubt. Oh, this person wouldn't buy my product. This person wouldn't sell their home with me. This person doesn't want to hear from me, right? And then when you're in those peak emotional states, it's endless. It's limitless possibility. Man, I need to tell everybody about what I do. The truth is that the more people I speak to, the more opportunities I create, right? So you have to first be aware of when you're moving into these states. So first, it may come through as just emotions, right? It may come through as just experiences. But over time, you want to be aware and start to create some, what you could call rules or just measuring sticks as to your experience, so that it doesn't just take you by storm and you don't just experience like the low lows and think that that's just it. You want to be aware of when you're in the state, even if you can't even get yourself out of it initially. And it's not about escaping or getting out of it, but we also don't want to live here and live in those states. But sometimes, a lot of the times, we have to go through these different states so that we can experience them and find find the gold inside of this, right? So my belief is that the middle ground, like the middle ground between both of these, is discipline. And this is easier said than done because discipline sounds cool, sounds exciting, sounds motivating, sounds sounds exciting from the standpoint that, man, if I just stay disciplined, I'm going to get what I want. But when you're in the low, discipline gets a lot harder. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't it doesn't add up, to that part of you that's experiencing the self-doubt. Well, I shouldn't work out today. I shouldn't make calls today. I shouldn't record videos today. I should just, hang out and, lay on my bed. And like I said, there's a process and there's timing for all of these things. So I'm not saying you should or shouldn't be doing any one of these things, but these are kind of this is the antenna that you begin to tune into when you're in that low state. And so my belief is that the discipline is the middle ground. And what you want to do is, create, different things that are going to get you to stay disciplined. And first, as I've mentioned in other videos, is you want to have a constant variable. So for example, let's say that, for me, having a personal trainer that I train with at 7 a.m. has been, a constant variable that I never change, right? And so it was at 7 a.m. and it's Monday to Friday. And so what happened was, before I had that in my life, I would just experience the peaks and the highs, right? Or the peaks and the lows, and that was it. And I didn't really have a lot of structure in my life that allowed me to see, like a mirror, these different states. But when I added in something, and I'm not saying for you it needs to be working out, but when I added in some form of discipline, I was able to really clearly identify when I was hovering between these states. And this is completely a part of the human experience, is that you're going to go through these. You're going to get off track. You're going to become unmotivated. You're going to doubt things. You're going to, worry and be afraid of things. I mean, this is not something that we should not acknowledge at this point in our evolution. But what I've done is that I created this discipline, right? It's at 7 a.m. and it's from Monday to Friday. And, there have been times where I go every day, and I hit it on the mark, and I experience a different, emotional state. I'm excited. I'm creative. When I go to these workouts and I'm in that routine, I plan my day. I get stuff done. I do breath work. I do meditation. There's an entire set of dominoes that fall over just by keeping this one discipline. So if you don't have something like that, and it could be something as small as doing, one push-up at 7 a.m. It doesn't need to be something big, because as long as you hold and commit to something that's going to stay constant, you're going to see these different things because you have a reference point, right? If you don't have a reference point, well, you start to make decisions from here and here, and sometimes these can lead you into things that, like I said, usually when you're in a peak state and you move into these different decisions and do things, you may actually ignore kind of the logical mind that may give you the ability to make a more effective decision and understand the timing, right? So maybe when you're in that peak state, it's like, now's the time, go now, let's go. But then when you're in a more calm, collected space, you realize, like, wait, I don't actually need that right now, or I can wait, or et cetera, et cetera. Now, waiting and, being patient are two different things. But the point that I'm making here is that, if you're constantly making decisions and marketing and, calls or these different things only from these two extreme states, what happens is, over time, you're going to lack the real discipline that's going to enable you to stay on the track for long periods of time. Because no matter what we do to condition ourselves to stay in these peak states, we're all human. And like I said, external circumstances change, things outside of us change, internally that can affect us. And so this discipline is going to enable you to really see a clear reference point. So like I said, for me, and I actually track all of this information on a sheet. I have like a health tracking sheet. And, I noticed that when I go to the training, I go to sleep earlier and I wake up earlier, right? And when I don't do training, well, I go to sleep whenever, I wake up whenever, and I may or may not meditate, right? I may or may not do breath work. I may or may not eat healthy, right? So it's really fascinating because, we're not coming and don't want to come from a place of judgment when it comes to both the peak and the low states, right? You just want to be aware and actually observe, wow, how come I'm super inspired, I'm motivated, I'm feeling creative, I have ideas, I'm going to sell 10 homes a month, I'm going to sell 20 homes a month, I'm going to recruit agents, I'm going to build my pipeline, I'm going to run ads, I'm going to spend money on advertisements. And then we move into this kind of like other state where it's like, man, why did I just spend all that money? Why did I do that? And we actually kind of move out of the commitment as well. So this, facing off with yourself starts with this awareness first, that you're actually experiencing two, or like I said, it's not two, but it's just different. You're having different experiences and you want to measure them. And you want to be aware of when you're in those states, what you're doing. You're on the phone, you're making calls, you're working out, you're eating clean, you're doing breath work, you're meditating. When you're in a low state, you're laying down, you're on your phone, you're on social media, you're doubting, you're gossiping, you're judging, you're comparing, right? So those are two extreme, polarities, but, it may come through that way or it may come through more in the middle. But either way, we're all going to experience this, and we have to be aware because the game that we're playing is long-term discipline aligned with a goal and vision that is beneficial for humanity. And, that doesn't change really, because you could set that out. This is my goal, this is my vision, and this is what I want to create. And then this comes in and says, whoa, are you sure? Do you think that's good? Do you think that's right? Are you, or do you think you can do it? You can do it, you can't do it. And then you start seeing how you want to change the thing that you set in stone, right? Because that's what this whole game is, right? Bringing more awareness to when we're in these states and correcting them over time so that they become less detrimental and less oppressive to our own creations, our own stuff. Right? So that's the first thing. It all starts with the awareness of the high highs, the low lows, the middle, the medium, the average, where you're at, because really this is your life, right? The emotions you experience in your life consistently, that is your life. So if you're on super high highs, super low lows, and it's just like a roller coaster, well, then that's going to be your life. Now, if you have peak states and you're steady there, and then, you drop down a little, but you keep correcting yourself back up, not by ignoring not by ignoring these low states, but by actually reconciling and correcting them, well, then you start to create that, and that becomes your life, right? So here's some things that I recommend when it comes to the objective truth as well. So I put my best version of a compass here. And, what I believe has been extremely impactful on my life, and I believe thousands of others as well, is meditation. So you can start with something as simple as 5 minutes a day, 1 minute a day. I mean, even just a conscious breath every day, right? That could be your discipline, and it can build, because it's not about, I'm going to do 30 minutes a day of meditation for 30 days, because that can be coming from here. And while that may be true over time, we have to trust that process that, wait, I don't know if I'm able, my baseline self, right? Because what ends up happening is this baseline, the average of these two states, is your life and what you're able to handle or not handle. So it's not just like you can just skip a bunch of steps and just, okay, I want to do this, and this, and that's it, right? You have to stay consistent. And like I said, discipline is that middle ground that really enables you to stay on the path. So meditation has been something extremely beneficial. I just do 11 minutes. Some days I do more. Some days I, haven't done it at all, right? And I can tell a difference, right? So that's one of the ways that I'm able to kind of look at the objective truth, because meditation is not going to be where your mind is just blank. Now, if you practice it a lot, like I said, it's truly transformed just how I think, how I approach things, and the decisions that I make. And so when you start, though, if you close your eyes for 5 minutes, you may not even be able to sit still, right? So that's okay. The game of meditation is not to, your mind won't just be blank immediately. And if it is, great. But, it's going to take some time and practice, right? So what I've seen here is that I move more into the observer state. So a lot of the things that would tear my creations down, get in my way, ignite my fears in these low states are sometimes what I end up just observing. I close my eyes and I'm there and I'm watching how my mind wants to go do that and go do this and change that and do all these things, chase all these ideas. And those at a subtle level were actually the things that would tear down things. I would get in my own way. I would limit what was possible. So when I'm in that observer state, I'm able to see the same thing going on, but with practice, actually practice restraint. And, in order to do and observe some sort of objective truth, which, could be an argument till the end of time of what that even means. But for me, it represents just staying centered and staying aligned. And yeah, stuff sometimes changes, but yeah, just staying centered, staying in the observation mode, managing the emotions and being patient, practicing restraint and really creating the intention. And it's so fascinating because, we as humans are such powerful beings that we can really create our reality and change it so quickly, because like I said, you could be in these extreme highs and go to the extreme lows within a matter of seconds. And if this isn't something that you've been aware of, then that may be where you currently are. But with practice, with time, with healing, with reconciling these different patterns and different behaviors that are ultimately influencing, in this example, business or your life, the more effective you'll get at managing yourself, managing these different things. And, how could it be, like I said, that you want to create X amount of income per month and then you spend the whole day on YouTube or Instagram, and I want to make X amount and then I can't even call anyone, right? And so that's the crazy part of us as humans, is we have these pursuits and desires and things we want, yet we hold ourselves back and limit ourselves from these deep unconscious fears. So when we start creating the intention and creating the reality, you actually see how quick we have the ability to influence our environment and influence what we perceive. Because I've tested it where, for example, a great example for me is when I don't meditate, that changes actually what I perceive in the world. If I don't meditate, I'm less patient. I see the ways that by not doing a practice or a discipline, I actually change what maybe when I had meditated was the same scenario, right? I'm more prone to making an impulsive decision. I'm more prone to changing things around. I'm more prone to chasing down a different idea, right? Or being on social media. And so this is really, really powerful. And, on a kind of side note, but it's kind of funny, is that my cat actually has really, really helped me with the managing emotions part, because I got a cat last year, right around this time actually. And at that point she was a kitten. And so I didn't really know that when they're a kitten that they really need that attention, and really they make a lot of noise. And yeah, I didn't properly research or investigate and understand the amount of time and energy it would take to really, make sure that she was healthy, make sure that, yeah, she was being taken care of, similarly to like a kid, right? You don't really know what it's going to really take. Now, I think a kitten's easier than a child, but nonetheless, I was here in my office working on my vision, working on my business, what we're trying to create at newbreedagent.com. And, when I would come into the office, I'd close the door and she would make noise nonstop. I mean, like literally nonstop for hours and hours. And there was a point where I started to use that as discipline to fuel my own patience and fuel what I had the ability to handle, because it may not seem like a big deal. Oh, well, it's just, making some noises. But, the cats and even humans, we know unconsciously how to influence people to say things a certain way, to use a certain tonality to create something in the other person, right? Because there's a difference between saying, hey, just kind of my observations of what we've been doing. I think maybe we can make a correction on this part of the funnel, because when I'm looking at the numbers and I see that there's only this many people clicking, I think it means that we haven't like really defined the message as well as we can. So we should make some time to really correct it and see what we come up with, versus, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? The ad's not even working, right? That already changes what somebody's perceiving and feeling. And so in the same way with the cats and, even humans, she would make the noise that was just like like it was so perfectly annoying, right? And so at first I would like get up and open the door and go out there and be like, try to just get her to stop, by just petting her really quickly and just kind of like going in and out. And what I started to do was be aware of that, and like, I would try to put my headphones on, make it super loud, and listen to like binaural beats so that I couldn't hear. And then I started to be aware, like, wait, this can be an opportunity for me to callous my mind, discipline myself, and manage it. Because, here I am in my room, I've got my computer and everything's ready to go. And yet that thing is, that noise is disrupting me that much. And so I started to take the headphones off and listen to it and like go into every part of that sound that was annoying me, and still stay focused. Now, it took weeks, it took months to even get it where I was able to do it without breaking, and I would be able to go, before it was like 5 minutes and I would break and try to like go out there, and then it got longer and longer and longer, and then I was able to do it and I almost couldn't even hear it. So that's just a very practical example of like something that enabled me to see that objective truth, because had I not been aware of this at that stage, I would have maybe given the cat away. I maybe would have, like put her in my room, or, hired somebody to take care of her, right? And I would have maybe made a irrational decision on like how to handle that situation, versus being more patient, practicing restraint, creating that intention, and really taking on my responsibility that I had to manage myself effectively in that. And so that's just one example. I've got tons of others, but kind of brings me into the next step too, which is trusting the process, And if we look at business right now, it's primarily centered around goals and just being objectively based around goals. Now, I believe goals and targets are key to, like I said, keeping things constant. I don't think I have it written down here, but keeping variables constant, or having one variable that is constant. Because if you say, I want to make X amount a month, and you don't change that, well, you're going to be able to really self-reflect through that process, right? Now, it's not all about targets, because here's something that I've learned, that, if you're not process-oriented, you start skipping steps, because you want to get to where you want to go so bad that you skip steps, but you end up having to go all the way back and redoing it. And that's what I've learned about life. Maybe you have a different perspective, but I've personally seen for me where I've tried to skip steps. I've tried to just like expand so far out of where I was at that, I would end up, like I said, having to go back, having to pay back debts, having to make up with time and sacrificing like the process that was currently undergoing that would have led me to something that was able to be sustainable long term. And it's the same thing with what we're doing now with our program. My cousin and I have been entrepreneurs for the past 5 years. We've been working with clients one-on-one directly. We've been working with clients with video. We've done, thousands of videos, thousands of hours of editing. I've done thousands of hours of website design and ads and funnels and tracking and systems and technology. And so now we're actually getting to the point of creating the program, or we already have the program, but creating the content, creating the movement, creating what we're trying to create. Whereas there's some people that see the template, see the ad, and they just want to make the business, make the product, and then before you know it, they got to redo it because the nuances, the processes, the understanding had not been fully developed enough to where that was able to be sustainable. So we do want to have goals. We do want to have, rules, limits, and benchmarks, because if we don't have things that kind of guide us here, then, you may get too far off with your emotions where you start to mistake things in the process as well. So this is a very tricky journey. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to unfold for you, but I can tell you that this is a part of the entrepreneurship. This is a part about growing your real estate business, running ads, adapting to today's world. This is the underlying texture and, whispering wind, if you will, in the background of what it is that you're actually going through, right? So when we attune to this actually, it actually frees up a lot of space internally that we can use to apply it to our business, to apply it to our marketing, to apply it to the way we approach clients and do these different things, right? So what I recommend here is, as well as you're going through this, get in the habit of asking outsiders and write it down objectively. So what I've done is that when like I said, this is a never-ending process. I don't claim to have mastered anything. But when it comes to peak states and low states, and this way that I would experience these super high highs and these super low lows, is I started to ask other people that kind of had no idea about what I had even been up to, or just complete outsiders, and I started writing it down objectively. So, a lot of the times when we ask questions or share different things, we don't ask questions directly. We kind of, ask open-ended questions. So we'll say something like, hey, so I'm running my Facebook ads, and, I'm running this ad with this image and, this headline, and, I'm kind of seeing that it's not really working. And so, I just wanted to see what you would think, right? And so that in a way, it's like it's halfway to the question, but what happens is, you don't tighten up your thinking, you don't manage the emotion even in the question. And so you start getting into your story about it not working, when really, hey, maybe if you distill that down, it's that the cost per lead is higher than expected, right? And you have a certain budget, and so based on that budget, you're not able to afford the current, way that it's running. How do I lower my cost per lead, right? But that's a lot harder when you're in the midst of the run and the thrill of entrepreneurship and calls and all these different things, right? So what I started doing was asking outsiders and writing it down objectively. So what I would do is, when I would feel like, these low lows and where they would try to take me, I started to write down like from like these specific data points and reference points, so that I could see how it looked and how it was perceived by others. Because what's fascinating is when we look at other people, it's kind of obvious to point them in the right direction, like, hey, you know, I've been dating this person and they've done this and said this and done this, and they lay it all out. And for you, it's like, you know, maybe you shouldn't date that person anymore, right? But what happens is there's a process, a deeper process people have to go through for that to really be true. And so it's the same for us, where, you know, we tell other people our story about business and this is working, or I tried cold calls, or I tried ads and it didn't work. And they say, well, how many ads did you run? How much did you spend? Oh, well, spent $30 and I didn't get anything. And it's like, for them, it's like $30 isn't enough, right? But when we're in our emotions, when we're in our feeling, we have a distorted perception about what's occurring. We're not looking at it objectively, and we kind of get in our own way. So, like I said, this isn't something that I can just say in one video, this is how it's going to go. It's exactly what you need to know. But this is my attempt at least bringing some awareness into this, because as I said, in our program and what we teach, you know, running ads successfully and managing your emotions and running sales funnels and doing these new things and new ways of doing things is going to require facing off with yourself. And so it's not just about tactics. It's not just about, you know, marketing strategies. I mean, these things are crucial and vital to what it is that you can do in today's world. But if you only focus on that, and you'll start tearing it down and shutting off your ads and saying it doesn't work and chasing something else down. So wanted to make this available to those of you that have found my content interesting. I trust that it found you well. Let me know what your thoughts have been with facing off with yourself. Let me know what you think of this perspective, how it's shown up in your business, and would love to hear your experience. So with that being said, I will see you in the next video. Feel free to click the like button, subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, comment below. And as always, the links are below if you would like to book in a call with myself personally, learn more about what we do, how we help real estate agents, make this process, you know, essential part of their advertising. It sounds weird, but make this the background framework that we use to run and apply everything that we teach. So with that being said, I will see you in the next video, and I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.